Hello everybody and welcome back to Hearts of Iron, where we are of course playing as Integralist Brazil here. We are working a bit on our factories. We need to get a few more in action here. That will be wonderful. And you also may have noticed a few new resolution options here. Now, this is only in a technical preview, I'm gonna say. So, that is for this series only right now, because it runs reasonably well on my current setup, although the autosaving was a little off-center. That was interesting. That's something that I will look into, but you may have noticed that this is running in 4K at this point. Now, this is still on my old graphics card. The new one isn't in yet, but it will be here quite soon, and let's just go with, say, Decimetric Radar. We have a boost for it, so that'll be fine. The new one will be in sometime next week, I believe. And the other games, I did some testing. They don't really run very well in 4K on this graphics card. But this one does, so it runs okay anyway. Certainly when we're at the slower speeds, like when we're at 3, it seems to run basically flawlessly. But when we're at 4, it can drop a few frames here and there. This is why I'm saying it's a technical preview. Regardless, we are going to be going to this in the future. We're not quite there yet, and I may back to 1080p if this particular test doesn't go well. I ran a few tests that I didn't upload and they seemed to be okay, but this should, in theory, go reasonably well. But it will go better once the new graphics card comes in. So anyway, that's enough on the technical stuff, because we have a bit of Japanese agitation to deal with. American and British gunboats were attacked by Japanese aircraft in separate actions today while evacuating Western civilians from the front line in the war between Japan and China. Hold up, Fall of Nanjing. Despite being clearly marked as an American vessel, the USS Panay was hit by 2 bombs and sunk, with 3 American and 1 Italian citizen killed and others wounded. The pluralization on citizen is kind of weird there, but I'm going to let it go. In a separate attack on HMS Ladybird, 1 British sailor was killed. Both the American and British governments have issued strong protests. The incident highlights the increased tension between the 3 foremost naval powers. Does Japan have no limits? Well, apparently not, because Nanjing has fallen. Let's actually take a look. Ah, so it has. Yeah, that's not going well for the Chinese United Front. It rarely does. The capital of the Republic of China, Nanjing, has been occupied by forces from the Empire of Japan. Despite fierce resistance from the walled city's Chinese defenders, Japanese troops managed to capture Zhongshan Gate and fought their way into the city. Sporadic gunfire can still be heard, and several fires are raging in different parts of the city, but most surviving Chinese forces have either withdrawn or been captured. Along with the capture of Shanghai, this is a significant victory for Japan in their war against China. A significant development indeed. Okay, so we're going to come back over to Brazil, of course. This is all that we care about. So our factories are proceeding here. We actually only have 3 more civilian factories to construct, and that is wonderful. This one will be finishing up on 4 August, just a few days here. And when are we going to get our nuclear effort done? That is not very far away, in all honesty. Not very far away at all. Okay. So, that's going to go just fine. Let's take a look at our logistics here. Actually, we have a surplus of infantry equipment now. I mean, this isn't shocking, considering that we were working on bringing up our production efficiency. But it is very nice, for sure. We currently have a logistical surplus on everything. And that is amazing. I'm very, very happy about that. Let's go see what the United States is up to up here. Military construction. Okay. Well, I mean, it's not the best for us, but it could go far worse. It could go far, far worse. There are definitely some frame drops at this resolution on Speed 4. I think those frame drops existed before, though. And I think they're CPU bound, because they don't exist when the game is paused. Yeah. Exciting stuff, that performance. If it's not GPU bound, then, of course, that means that, well, it's not going to be CPU bound because my CPU is currently running at like 10% capacity. That probably means it's overloading single-threaded performance, which there really isn't anything I can do about, unfortunately. We can definitely work on prepared defense, and so we shall. We are also going to work on, I think, another rank of concentrated industry. Poland have refused the German ultimatum. Considering the demands, it seemed inevitable. Poland would be forced to cede Danzig to Germany, and a Polish plenipotentiary would be sent to Berlin to negotiate future terms. Berlin, apparently. Oh, I'm going to butcher this one. Ignacy Mosicki, I'm going to go with. I doubt that that's correct in any form. Pointed to the German Reich's recent actions when stating that it was obvious Germany would not be satisfied with Danzig alone. German and Polish forces are prepared for war, and reports are already coming in of clashes on the border. Once again, there's war in Europe. It's a grave situation, but hey, at least our nuclear effort has finished up. And that means that we are actually eligible to grab our extra research slot now, aren't we? No, that's the one we already did. I'm dumb. We can't grab that one just yet, but what we can do is grab another doctrine effort. And so we shall. The German Reich has declared war on Poland. Poland joined the Allies.
I am speaking to you from the cabinet room.
And it looks like France is also currently fighting, so we're just going to let that go.
The British ambassador in Berlin.
We don't really care about what happens in Europe, as long as what happens in Europe stays in Europe. That is our current goal. Of course, we're going to finish up our advanced machine tools quite soon, bringing up our production efficiency cap by another 10%. That is great. That'll bring us up to a production efficiency cap of 80.07. Wonderful.
I have to tell you now.
Ah, no it won't.
Has been received.
Necessarily. Wait, how is this calculated?
This country
Where is the .07 coming from? That's the question I have here. Because at first I was like, wait, no, this isn't additive, but it is additive.
you can imagine.
It adds the 10% to the 50% to get 70% from the two 10%. Where does the .07 come from? Is that some sort of a base cap?
That I cannot
Perhaps.
believe it is
Perhaps it's a base cap of some type. Regardless, advanced machine tools have now finished up, and that means that the cap is 80.08. So I guess it is both
have arranged a peace
multiplicative and additive simultaneously or something. I don't know. That's kind of funky, but whatever. That's fine. We're going to grab Construction 3 as our next one for sure.
to attack Poland, whatever happens.
This does, of course, mean that what military factories we have will be that much more efficient. And that is wonderful. We very, very much like that.
Not a true statement. The proposals were
We are still lacking equipment down here.
though they were announced. And the
What equipment are we lacking? We have all of our infantry equipment and all of our support equipment.
Did you comment on
Oh, we're lacking artillery. Of course. I, for some reason, didn't read the bottom of the tooltip. Yeah, we're lacking artillery there, and that is to be expected. We are still reinforcing our towed artillery in currently. The production efficiency on that is rising, so that is great. German pressure toward the Benelux. Following the breakout of war with France, German has applied stronger diplomatic pressure, okay, than ever on the countries of the Benelux. With French and British backing, however, they're refusing to give in to the pressures. There is reason to believe that if the German Reich is unable to get what they want by diplomacy, they'll take it by force. That would be an aggressive strike, but it'll probably happen. I mean, Poland is in full collapse right now, and it seems like the Soviet Union didn't join, so I mean, we've got a lot of real historical things going on here.
had become intolerable? And now that we have
Poland is about to fall.
I know that you will all play your part.
The question is, when will the Allies decide to properly do something about this? Let's look at the factions map mode. Barely anything going on in France right now. The Maginot Line is holding. They haven't invaded Belgium or Luxembourg. Okay. Lots of non-aligned over there right now. But the war is happening. Or a war, anyway. I'm not sure it's the war yet, but we're getting there. Okay, so we're going to get another military factory done here quite soon. That's great. And, I mean, these are relatively low priority over here, for sure. We are probably going to want to construct certainly coastal forts and land forts along our borders, but I'm not too rushed at getting those queued up. In our technology here, our next thing is going to be concentrated industry, which will give us access to more factories. I think I want one more civilian factory. Perhaps two, but probably one. The Bulgarian government... Oh, okay, we've got multiple things going on here. Earlier today, the Bulgarian leader, Boris III, publicly announced that the government will seek to negotiate with Ivan Mihailov. Sure, we'll go with that. I'm really bad at those Eastern European names. It's Ivan. Ivan Mihailov. It's not that complicated. One of the most important chiefs of the International Macedonian Revolutionary Organization, the cessation of hostilities between the IMRO and the Bulgarian authorities. That's what he's negotiating. I kind of interrupted this sentence. It didn't flow all that well with my interruption. According to the Minister of Interior Affairs, Bulgaria needs to cooperate with this organization to liberate the many Bulgarian Macedonians living in Yugoslavia and the Kingdom of Greece. A bold statement that will undoubtedly reignite the Balkan conflict and increase tension between the great powers that hold interests in the region. Seems the Balkan conflict is going to reignite. Perfect. German forces advancing in Poland have succeeded in capturing Warsaw. Sporadic fighting continues in Praga and a few other districts, but organized resistance in the city seems to have ceased. The Polish government reportedly evacuated the city as the first German units entered Warsaw's suburbs, and their present location is unknown. Fighting against the German invaders continues in other parts of the country, but the loss of the capital is a serious blow to the Polish war effort. Poland did not stand a chance. I mean, they never did. They never stood a chance. Maybe if they had prepared correctly, but it's difficult in that amount of time. And Poland capitulated. The Polish government has gone into exile and their main forces have capitulated to the German Reich, who is now in control of their home area. The struggle between the German Reich and Poland was only a small part of the conflict. Hang on, we'll get to you guys. The war between the Axis and what remains of the Allies continues elsewhere. Uncertain times. Okay, so the German Reich has declared war on the Netherlands, and the Netherlands have joined the Allies. This is, in my opinion, fairly clever of Germany to declare on Netherlands without declaring on Belgium. Belgium should preemptively join the Allies and allow France and England to reinforce this, but, I mean, it makes the Maginot Line pretty useless, and... Okay, there's Belgium joining the Allies, as they should. Okay, that's because Germany declared war on them. I would have waited on that, personally, but... Okay, they want to go around the Maginot Line. That's fair enough. Fair enough. So that's continuing to be a thing. We are currently lacking in steel. We're going to grab ourselves an additional civilian factory worth of steel, which does mean that we need a few others over here. Okay, now the USSR has indeed moved in over here. Soviet troops have occupied eastern Poland officially for the purpose of protecting Belarusian and Ukrainian minorities from the chaos that followed the collapse of the Polish government. German forces had withdrawn from these areas in good order, resulting in Poland's effective partitioning between the two powers. A likely story, indeed. Nobody believes that. Literally no one believes that. Excellent. Luckily, we don't really care. The war in Europe is escalating, and this is fully expected. Doctrine Effort 2 has finished up, and we're going to continue heading down here and grabbing what we can for our various tech boosts. Equipment Effort 2 is next. Fantastic. And we should definitely add a ship designer at some point. Netherlands has capitulated. No one is surprised by this. The Dutch government has gone into exile, and their main forces have capitulated to the German Reich, who is now in control of their home area. The struggle between the German Reich and the Netherlands was only a small part of the conflict. The war between the Axis and what remains of the Allies continues elsewhere. And Belgium's going to fall quite soon, too. And after that, probably France. And this is pretty much what we expect. Honestly, we're not lifting a finger with the European war. It is what it is. We're Brazil. What are we supposed to do about it? Absolutely nothing, that's what. Absolutely nothing. You know what? I should have gone for that extra research slot. Well, we still don't have more factories than 50. We have exactly 50. You have to have 51. Gotcha. That was an abrupt musical change. Okay, I didn't do that, but whatever. So yeah, we could certainly use 2 more civilian factories, and then everything else is going to be military factories from here on out, I think. Unless we attempt to go for a 3rd simultaneous construction, but I think that's a little greedy with our current landmass. Ah, our divisions are back to being in training. That's wonderful. Bulgaria has joined the Axis. Earlier today, the German Reich and Bulgaria issued a joint statement that the latter has now been formally granted member status of the Axis. Whether this partnership will be used for offensive or defensive purposes remains to be seen, but undoubtedly extensive joint military planning is already underway. There we go. That's how you read. Fantastic. The Belgian government has gone into exile, and their main forces have capitulated to the German Reich, who is now in control of their home area. The struggle between the German Reich and Belgium was only a small part. Indeed it was. So at this point, France, you're a little bit screwed. Sure, you'll hold the Maginot Line, but how about the Belgian border? Indeed. Okay, so Germany is doing Germany things, and we are doing Brazil things. We do now have 51 factories, which means that after we're done with this equipment effort, we're going to grab our next research slot, for sure. That is our guaranteed thing that we get next. We got to get that 4th research slot. It's incredibly important to us. So we're going to need to figure out what we want to do for now with these excess military factories we're going to have. I'm just going to bump these up to 3 for now, since I do see that we are a little bit short. Actually, we're a little short on infantry equipment daily as well. So we should probably add another factory there for now. And we'll just keep an eye on these numbers. Of course, we're only going to be constructing a total of 3 more military factories. It's a small amount. So that's all of our constructed military factories allocated there. But hopefully, we're still going to be a little bit negative on our support equipment and maybe on our artillery as well. Yeah, at least until our production efficiency comes up. Our production efficiency on infantry equipment is still coming up as well, and this is saying that it's being stockpiled. Fascinating. Yeah, we do have a pretty good stockpile here, but we are currently going negative, and that's because we are drilling for army experience. So that is to be expected. Completely for sure. At some point, we're going to want to start producing fighters and bombers, as well as tanks. Those are all going to be very necessary for us. Concentrated Industry 3 is going to be a big deal for us. That's for sure. That will allow us to really begin producing some of these items. So, of course, our naval dockyards are being constructed where they can be. We're not too keen on having too many naval dockyards for now. We may expand that number later. But we're not planning extensive overseas operations for the moment, so we're not really trying to become a naval power. We are going to have to pretend to protect our shores. There's no doubt about that, but it is what it is. So, I mean, this is quite a ways away that we're going to get all that done, for sure. 1 December is when we're going to finish our next military factory. We can put in our ship designer, and so we shall. That'll get us that research speed bonus. Fantastic. France's border is holding for now. Emphasis on the for now. If we look at the supply areas here, I can't actually see what's in this supply area, can I? No, Germany is going to have a bit of a hard time pushing into here, but I don't think that's going to stop them for long. Okay, well, Germany is going to do Germany things, and that's okay. We're currently at 74% war support. We are at 65% fascist, and of course, the fascists have taken over. We can start justifying, if we so decide. Bolivia is guaranteed by the US, which isn't helpful, as is Paraguay and Uruguay. So, that pretty much means we need the US to do other things. There's a little bit of communism in the US. Isn't that interesting? But we're no match for them right now. Absolutely no match for them. I was hoping that they would stop this guarantee, but maybe. Hypothetically. 20 reasons away. Yeah, they're guaranteeing everyone in South America pretty much right now. I'm hoping that when they get embroiled in other wars, we can take that opportunity to attack. When they intervene with Japan and Europe, that's the idea. That's our moment to strike. And until then, we are just building up. We're almost at our production efficiency cap for Infantry Equipment 1, and that's wonderful. We should be ticking forward. We're 26 days on the concentrated industry. I think I was paused that whole time. I didn't intend to be. Oh boy. Okay, Luxembourg is now falling as well. And you can see here, France is beginning to crumble. Yep, this is fully expected. Luxembourg has capitulated. Yep. That's not shocking. Well, the German Reich is doing pretty well for themselves, gotta say. Although, they probably should have taken the rest of Slovakia. Just saying. At any rate, we are potentially... Maybe we go after this up here first. I don't know. If France capitulates, what happens to this? That's the question. France is guaranteeing Romania. Uh-huh. That's nice. They can do that. I'm sure that will be fine for them. How long until we have that concentrated industry? Another 11 days. We're also going to cap out our fuel pretty soon. That's okay. I'm not too concerned about that at this exact moment. Okay, so this is going to be another 7 days on the concentrated industry. We do need to assign this division in, and so we shall. Wonderful. And we are getting a pretty decent amount of army experience now. And there it is. While fighting still rages elsewhere in Free France, reports have come in of German troops entering Paris. The capital was declared an open city by French forces moments before their last units retreated. Several columns of German troops recreated the Prussian victory parade of 1871 by marching down the Champs-Élysées, while Parisians looked on in stunned silence. Military experts predict that the collapse of Free France is imminent. The German Reich army does seem unstoppable. France has capitulated, and Vichy France has been created. They are, of course, Germany's puppet. The death of Rudolf Hess. The Deputy Führer, Rudolf Hess, was killed yesterday when the Royal Air Force intercepted the heavy fighter he was flying off the coast of Scotland. The exact nature of his mission remains unclear, although Hess was an accomplished pilot. He flew alone, and his airplane does not appear to have been armed. His remains were recovered by British authorities, but a state funeral with an empty coffin has been scheduled in Berlin. Hitler was reported as being visibly distraught by the death of his old friend. Okay, well that's a thing. Europe is becoming increasingly horrible. I'm sure it'll be fine. What we're waiting on here, of course, is concentrated industry finishing, and that is finished as of now. So we are going to immediately start grabbing Improved equipment conversion, I think. It's a pretty quick one, although maybe... It's a nice boost. I want to get this done ASAP. I really, really do. And we can, of course, queue up our additional 3 civilian factories at this point. So 1, 2, 3, like so. Those become our highest priorities to construct. Like so. And then we queue up the rest here as military factories. Wonderful. And then, of course, the civilian factories retain max priority. Perfect. Okay, so there we go. It is now time to put a cut in here, but the war in Europe is in full swing. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.